Hello and welcome back to FlowState. I lost my voice over the weekend, so you're just going to have to bear with me. Maybe it sounds better. Maybe it's more of a vibe and less of a crystal clear Eric. Anyways, today's a rather unique edition because we're in a different location than we normally are. You're also going to have to bear with me. Running on a few hours of sleep. Missed last Sunday's episode. Carnival, which has been running in Tenerife for the past month, officially ended last weekend, though there's a little continuation, let's say, this week. And it's the second largest in the world after Rio. It's a spectacular scene. There's something for everyone. There's stuff for kids. There's mostly stuff for adults. And so what I'm going to be talking about on this episode, in my kind of low energy state, is leveraging flow, right? The name of this podcast is FlowState, but I'm referring to a different type of flow. Flow state, as it relates to the podcast, is really not preparing for anything and just flowing as a stream of consciousness and sharing with you, connecting with you on things that have been on the top of my mind and other topics that have been permeating throughout the week. I would also like to say that it was 20 weeks straight of dropping videos every Sunday until last week. And at the same time, I was on a fresh daily journaling streak of over 100 days. And because I took full advantage of Carnival, which this episode may get into the debauchery nature of it all, most likely, keeping it real. And so I had such premeditated intentions to preserving that streak by just entering a journal entry at midnight, knowing full well that it was most likely that one and only opportunity to do so. That did not happen. That was well-intentioned, but just not possible to do that. I'm so tired because it was 3 weeks of kind of like back-to-back 24-hour parties with not much room for recovery, while keeping my commitment to weight training at a minimum of 3 days a week, which includes cardio as well, and sauna, recovery, the whole thing. And so last night was a birthday party of a dear friend and super fun. Lots of kids running around, lots of adults running around, incredible food, fucking perfect weather. Couldn't have asked for a more chilled afternoon, which bled into the evening, which bled into the morning. And at some point around 3 a.m. this morning, I lost my voice, so. Flow. So much of what I talk about is leveraging systems to remove this idea of emotional attachment to activities that we're engaged in. And so for me, a big part of, by the way, I just want to mention one of the most tripped out things about this island is, right now we're in a laurel forest, one of the two remaining of this age, like millions of years old. Insane. These are all volcanic islands, and on the far, far north tip is Anaga, which is just this incredible laurel forest, and it has these fantastic, really well-maintained trails. So going running, trekking, walking, recording podcasts, it's just an incredible opportunity to leverage. And it was always my intention to come to these really amazing locations on the island because everything's within an hour or an hour and a half. 2 hours if you're on some super remote road, like a dirty track, not paved. And there's just silence, nothing. We may see some people, may not, I don't know. And I'm gonna walk half an hour this way, half an hour back, and that'll be my podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments if you've been here, not necessarily in this location, but Anaga or Tenerife. I love the ocean. I've been doing that for like 20 weeks straight. I also was kind of lazy last week. There was an opportunity to do the podcast, but it was raining and I was kind of just worn out. And there was a party that evening that lasted a full 24 hours. So going back to flow, right? FlowState as a podcast is really about tapping the record button, getting into it, and just sharing and talking and being present with you as much as I can be in a digital sense, and sharing with you my thoughts as they come up, which is why sometimes I'm a little all over the place. But I also like this format because I feel like it keeps it real. There's no editing. If I fuck up, I fuck up. If I stumble on myself linguistically, it is what it is. And, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not associating meaning to any of this other than trying to provide as much value as I can in an unfeathered way that hopefully will resonate with you, that you can then take action on, which is the whole basis of everything that I'm doing, creating insights and correlate those insights to actionable steps to leverage within your life to amplify your systems. Which reminds me of what I was saying earlier about systems, right? Locked in, had a routine. I leveraged that routine for months, not deviating from it. And my diet was super clean. My health and wellness regimen was fucking just dialed in. I was leaner than I am now, felt amazing, little to no alcohol, basically none. Like, if there was a badass bottle of wine that was just opened, I'm definitely going to enjoy some. But if I didn't like it, I wouldn't drink it. My sleep was on point. And then, continuing on with everything else, work, family, all of it, friends, it was just great, vibing in a very clean way, like very little processed foods. Protein powder is a processed food, so it's not always just Big Macs and whatever. So my point is that when Carnival comes around, right? So Carnival in Rio, Mardi Gras in New Orleans, Carnival here in Tenerife, in Venice, Italy. There's so many carnivals that coincide to Lent, I believe. Not super knowledgeable about all of the kind of religious structure behind it, but I know it's all correlated. So Lent, right? Did I mention that? So the key is not getting lost here, because I haven't been here. Let's see. They also have these amazing markers, but these ones are more developed than some of the other ones. And there's a fork in the road here. Let's just make sure. Stay left. All right. This podcast may be ending up as a search and rescue vlog. Not really funny, because people do get lost. It's pretty gnarly. All right. Focus. Oh, just, might as well. Partied until like 3, went to bed 3:30, woke up at 7, and kind of just laid there for a minute. Not nearly enough sleep at all. And decided to go to the gym. Had a phenomenal workout. Just was very slow. I felt like low energy. Did my normal routine, cardio, 20 minutes on the step mill, and then right to the incline Smith machine press. I did 7 sets. Fucking sick chest pump, and then pec deck and other stuff. I did 6 different exercises, 4 sets each. After that, felt amazing. Did 20 minutes in the sauna, cold shower, then go into the plunge pool with all the jets. Did another 20 minutes. Went to the grocery store, got some smoked salmon, made myself a nice sandwich at the Viewpoint, and then started recording this podcast. So, not a bad day for having had a few hours of sleep. Hola, ¿qué tal? Buen provecho. So, all right, FlowState. Locked in systems for like 4 months. I mean, there was December, all of that madness in there, but it was a little loose during that period for a couple weeks, but basically it was really tight. Carnival comes around, and then, you're just presented with a once a year kind of opportunity. Certainly not a once a lifetime. It happens every year, same time. And I'm of the mind that, there's benefit to like a cheat meal, if you will. Some people in the fitness, health, and wellness space advocate for cheat meals. Some people advocate for just staying clean and focusing on keeping that long-term goal in. And I think it's interesting, both perspectives are interesting. On one hand, if you're really locked in and you're focused, you're feeling good, there's really no need for a cheat meal. Like the 80-20 rule, which applies to so many different things in different contexts. But, like 80% of the time, you're eating super clean, and then 20% is just like whatever. As like a philosophical thing, I like it because it's not as rigid as 100% of the time. All I do is eat clean, all this, which there's a lot to be said about it. But, you know, if you go out to a restaurant, it is extremely unlikely you're going to be eating clean for a variety of reasons. If you eat fried food, that's not clean, you know, unless you're eating whole foods, minimally processed. Cooking is processing, right? Anytime it's like eating a strawberry from a bush is not processed, but taking that strawberry and manipulating the structure of it is processing. So you want to take strawberries and make jam, that's processing. You can minimize the external addition of ingredients to reduce the overall processing, right? The incorporation of other things. But no matter what, it's still processed to a certain degree. So my diet is primarily whole foods with minimal intervention. If I eat beef, I generally go for steaks and I render out some of the fat, use that, and pan-sear steak. It's fucking delicious. I'll eat 3 steaks in a day sometimes, or whole avocados, whatever. It's just amazing. But yes, sometimes it's fucking delicious. Lean into fried food, fried fish, whatever. Whole fried sardines, incredible. And my point is that those little indulgences, I think when you start looking at it from a holistic perspective, a perspective that is not just about keeping a target in front of you and saying under no circumstance I can't deviate from that target. It's also, you're not a robot, right? And throwing the monkey wrench into it, just like the idea behind a cheat meal, essentially shocking your body to overcompensate, right? If you're eating super clean, then all of a sudden you're like, I want a big juicy hamburger from not a gourmet restaurant or not cooked at home. You're most likely eating subpar meat, all the fucking, you know, condiments, that Franken bread. You know, you're not talking about like an artisanal brioche bun that was made to perfection here. We're saying like store-bought, whatever, you know, Cisco systems. That shit ain't clean, and it's sure shit not good for you, but tastes amazing, right? So you're putting your body into shock. You're like, what the fuck is going on? You were eating cucumber, salt and pepper, and steak for a month, and now you're giving me this. And my point is, right, just like taking advantage of Carnival, that delicious burger that may not be good for you, but sure shit tastes good in that moment. Or you go out, let's say you're not normally consuming alcohol, and you go out and you drink a bunch, and you're in the moment and you're having a good time, social connections, might even gotten laid, whatever. It's just like removing yourself from the normal state, interrupting all those patterns, and just kind of like shaking things up. You will suffer, there's no question. The compensation that is required to get you back to baseline will take some time. But part of that, I believe, and this is just a hypothesis here, I have no like data off the top of my head to suggest that what I'm saying is backed by science. I'm saying that in many ways, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a loose interpretation of the general flow of what I'm talking about. And that, for me personally, those 2 nights of partying back to back, it's just crazy. Imagine, right, a European small city, tight, narrow streets. You can barely fit a car on the streets. No cars, all pedestrian, different stages set up throughout the city, programmed music by the government until like 6 a.m., kiosks everywhere. Everyone is dressed in the most absurd costumes. It's kind of like you go to the cheap costume shop and you buy all kinds of shit and you make the best out of it. One of the biggest things that's very popular is like men will dress up in traditionally women's clothing, but also like costume characters. And it's just a hilarious thing. They'll put fake tits in, super over the top makeup, almost like dressing up fresh, but looking like you had just partied for 48 hours. If you could have that in your mind of what that costume would look like, and then you wearing that to go out fresh. So you can only imagine what it looks like after. The streets basically turn into sewers. People are just pissing everywhere. It's not pleasant to smell. But in this intensity is just a pure expression of energy that has compounded over the year and is just being released out into the world. And there's truly no party like it. And this is coming from someone who got married at Burning Man, had been to Burning Man many times, all different kinds of parties. There's nothing quite like it. People are not holding back. People are, like all kinds of drug use, big celebration, music, hundreds of thousands of people in the street. And it's set up with all the bars basically hosting their own party and their own vibe. So let's just use this as an analogy. Like one bar could be Hawaiian themed. Another bar could be like, Puerto Rican theme, whatever. And I'm not saying that this is what it was, just use it as an example. And so one of the cool things to do is you kind of like go to battle, meaning you walk the streets and you're crossing in and out of different universes, because each bar has a contingent of people that go there and they're throwing these specific parties, these theme parties, but they're kind of stacked next to each other. So and then all of this is happening inside the bars, but also in the streets. So there's no cars. They shut down, I don't know, it's a huge area where there's no cars at all, and everybody's just walking, having a tripped out time. And so you'll be approaching this one area, and it's this vibe that's so refined and locked in. And you'll have that for like a block or a half a block. And then all of a sudden you break out of that universe and you go into this other space. But all you've done is walked from one block to the next. And then it's as though there's a completely different costume setup, and I mean the music's different, and then there's live performances on huge stages. I think the largest performance was like 500,000 people, like many years ago for a sunrise. It was like a Latin, famous Latin performer. I don't know, I wasn't there, but the point is, you should take a look, Google it. Carnival from Santa Cruz to Tenerife. Oh, here's a great example of some of the great signage. It's good. We want to follow directions to Baja Mar on the way back. Punta del Hidalgo. Oh, wow. Cruz del Carmen. Interesting. We're getting up to this nice lookout point. So, oh, another few minutes before turn around. Hola. There's also tourists that come from all around the world for this, and I barely feel normal. And then went out last weekend. Well, I did actually. That was the last weekend of Carnival. So, just a little insight. I'll just describe both weekends in as quick and as succinct as possible. The first weekend, my wife and I met up with a couple of friends and another friend. So we were 5 people. And there are so many hilarious moments. Obviously, me describing them, it's kind of like you had to be there to get all the nuance. But as a general story, it started with us going to the parking lot of the after hours club where we were going to end the night like 13 hours or whatever plus later, more than that, 15 hours later. And there was a parking space that became available right next to where we parked. We were waiting for my friend who was opening the club at 5 a.m., who played for 2 hours. It was a phenomenal set. And so my wife and I dressed up, had a little cocktail going, stood our ground right in the parking. And it's a public parking lot. We're not really, I don't know what the rules are or whatever. Here, I'm not gonna walk up there. I'm feeling a little lazy. I'll save going up another time. There's a great viewpoint. It's about a half hour from where we started, so. And a car came, I stood my ground. The person who was driving basically touched me with her car. I mean, it's like no big deal, but it's still, and she was very aggressive and she really wanted that parking spot, understandably. Like, I get it, you know? And eventually she left. She was causing all kinds of problems. Then another car came. Eventually my friend showed up and we synced up, did what we did, and started off on our adventure. It was like maybe a mile from where we were to the center of town, like where there was just like total debauchery happening. It was crazy. So we did that walk along the water, which was fantastic. And then we started to walk in the streets, navigating. Some streets were a little bit more crowded than others, and then some were just like you couldn't even move. I mean, we were just sandwiched in between people. There was this flow, like you could be walking in one direction, take one step to your left or right, and the oncoming flow of people would just suck you in the opposite direction, and there's nothing you could do about it. I mean, just you could stop, but you'd probably get trampled. And it was just so gnarly. Our friends actually said that that was the most intense that it had ever been for them during Carnival in their history. And they're from here. They've done, 30 carnivals. And it was just one particular area in this one corner that got particularly congested. Anyways, it was like we walked 20 kilometers that Saturday, Sunday. That's a lot. I don't know how many miles that is. It's at least 15 miles. So we spent, okay, now here's, help me out. If I go left or right, I'm supposed to go the opposite way. We won't know until I get back. So it was navigating in the streets, stopping at the plazas, of which there are many different bands and different acts, and then there's DJs in these bars and live musicians, electronic musicians. It's just like full on crazy. And we do that for many hours at 4 a.m. So we met at the parking at 10. And at 4 a.m., what is the house here? It's crazy. At 4 a.m., we started making our way back to the car so that he could change, we could freshen up, and then go into the after hours, which opened at 5. He was opening, he played for 2 hours, had a killer set. That party went until 1:30 p.m. that afternoon. And then Liz and I, at that point, our friends had left, and we ended up walking back into town to our friend's apartment, had some food, hung out for a bit, enjoyed, and then we walked back, and it was like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. by the time we got to the car, and then, went back home. So that was like weekend one. And it was like 3-4 days, 1 week of basically recovery. Even though I went to the gym 3 times, she went to the gym, I think, twice. And it was hard, but I still did it. Just like less reps, less weight, but just still doing it. And I always felt better afterwards. It was clear that my body needed it, making sure I was well hydrated, nourished, vitamins, the whole thing, right? Only to do it again on Saturday. And then this Saturday, we linked up with another group of people, Italian family. They're 3, we're 4. So all the kids, we went in. Again, I'm not going to go into so much detail, but we just went into town. We dropped them off, drove to the club, parked the car. I did my walk back. The kids partied in the streets. I mean, there is definitely thousands of children running around, all costumed out. But at like 10 o'clock at night, there's a clear shift of like, all right, this is no longer appropriate for younger kids, and strap in because it's going to be a wild ride kind of vibe. So that's what happened. At 10 o'clock, the husband of the other family took the kids, went back home, and it was me, my wife, and this other woman. And we partied all night. And then the real party for me, because of the quality of the DJs and stuff, was at the after hours, which starts at 5. Closed that place out at 1. Lights came on. Then we were not ready to drive yet, so we went to the car in the parking lot, and there's everybody doing the same thing, kind of like the after party. And then eventually made it home and went to bed at 10 p.m. on Sunday. And I felt like I had just recovered from all of this on Thursday or Friday of this week, or Thursday. That was like yesterday. And then throw another monkey wrench. Didn't get as much sleep as I would have liked last night. Feeling okay, but still went to the gym, still fucking did all the things, feeling pretty good. A little low energy, gonna relax today. Tomorrow, not gonna do anything. and then hit it hard this week, and then there'll be another party on Saturday. But after that, it goes back to my schedule of like clean. Sometimes life feels like it's on repeat. But what if you could start fresh and start making real progress every day? That's exactly why I created the 10 steps to everyday action. Here's the best part. This isn't about doing it all at once. It's about small doable steps, things that you can actually fit into your day. Over the next 3 months, you'll get a new email every few days packed with exercises and insights to keep you moving forward. We'll cover it all. Finding clarity, setting goals that feel right, creating balance, and building habits that stick. It's practical, it's achievable, and designed for real life. So, are you ready to break out of the same old cycle and start moving towards something better? Grab the 10 steps to everyday action using the link in my bio or drop a comment below and I will send it to you. Start your journey to lasting change today. Locked in, dialed in, and my point, which has taken quite a while to get to, I hope it was entertaining, is that it happens once a year where it's like a month-long party. I mean, it's not every day for me. My wife did go out a couple more times with her girlfriends, and I had other stuff going on, and you have to also choose what your priorities are. And I have different priorities, and she's taking advantage, and I love that. And she has the space to do whatever the fuck she wants, and that's awesome. I mean, everybody should feel like they're supported in being able to do the thing. You still have your responsibilities, you get that shit done, and then whatever. It's all good. It's like, my point is not to get so tied up in all of the nitty gritty for huge and extended periods of time. Because what ends up happening when that mindset kind of locks you in, it's also corrosive. It's like you want a certain level of balance, and it's going to be different for everybody. I was never in my older adult life, let's say, when I was younger, partying most weekends. When you could recover more quickly, there was less of an issue with being older and how much more important sleep is. Sleep is so vital to every bodily function, your hormones, your energy levels, everything. And I am a high functioning person who operates at a high standard every day for everything I do. But that's because I prioritize my sleep, my wellness, and all these things so that I can actually show up and do the things that I say I'm doing as part of the growth blueprint as well. The systems that are there designed to support you and amplify your life through these systems are highly leverageable and give you the space to be able to create what you truly want, whatever that is. It still doesn't mean that you should be a robot and exclude things that are spontaneous and or once a year kind of experiences, or certainly not once in a lifetime. And you're going to compromise your sleep. You're going to fuck up your diet, especially if you enjoy recreational compounds, alcohol and the like, and drugs, whatever. And I've always been someone who's looked at every opportunity and then with a little discernment, choosing wisely whether the required recovery is going to justify the experience that you went on. For example, if you fly from New York to Hong Kong, that's like an 18-hour flight. That's going to fuck you up. Sober, fully dialed in, healthy. You're going through so many different time zones so fast, it's not a natural thing for humans to be doing. It's just not. It took you so long to cross, just let's use the United States, east to west, for example, okay? On horse and buggy, you're essentially going so slow, you're acclimating along the way, and you're not being confronted with such a traumatic thing. I mean, when you land in Hong Kong from New York, it's pretty traumatic. You're really fucked up, and you can drink all the water you want, and certainly it's important to sleep, but you're not sleeping the whole way. And my point is that in modern life, there are so many things that we do on a regular basis that have such a profound impact on our well-being and our ability to recover effectively, to bring us back to baseline and allow us to leverage these cool moments. Like traveling is one of the greatest gifts that anybody can give to another person, and including the gift of travel to yourself. It's something that I would like to speak more of on future episodes, because there's something so magical about connecting with other humans that have nothing to do with your culture or where you're from, different perspectives, smells, tastes, clothing, architectural styles, just the list goes on and on. It's like removing the idea of agreeing with someone or not. It's just that human connection experience that I believe has been amplified by insurmountable sums due to the advent of modern travel, right? I mean, like New York to Hong Kong direct for 18 hours on a plane. It's crazy. How long would that take you? I don't even know, but it's way longer than 18 hours. It's nuts. So to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves to you is so important, because life is all about those magic moments. Life is also about locking in, being super healthy, and leveraging that to be able to amplify the things that you want. And you can't do both all the time. It's just not going to work. It's not a sustainable model for success. You can't be partying all the time and think you're going to be able to run a massive business successfully, or a small business, or be a good parent, because it takes energy, it takes mental bandwidth. You need to show up when you say you're going to show up. They are your responsibility. So there needs to be balance. But if you are strategic about that balance, you can amplify those experiences, building in recovery. It takes like a month to recover from going to Burning Man if you do it right. If it takes you less than a month, you didn't really do it right. It's only like a week. And so, all right, now, okay, there's the red post up here. I just don't remember if I crossed the street here. I think I did. Hola, ¿qué tal? Yeah, all right, let's go for it. I think this looks right. All this mud. There were moments in my life when I was building my art business that the balance really was haphazard. There was no intention behind it. Whereas now, I do everything with intention. And that is Do you remember which way to go here? Shit. Left or right? You know? Oh, man. I think it was left. Huh. We'll see. All right. Drop in the comments if you think I made the right decision or not. Not going to give me much help though. So, doing everything with intention allows you to see into the future, because then you have a better idea of all of the things that are required, and then give space to the things that you know that you don't know, right? There are things that can happen. You have a general idea. You can't control everything. But as a loose framework, you know, okay, I'm going to go on this trip. Getting there is going to, like, you wouldn't plan a trip to Australia from the East Coast of the United States for 3 days, unless you absolutely had to be there for that, right? It's like the flight alone is going to take however many hours, like more than a day, at least 25 hours or whatever. And then you're completely fucked up because of the time zone difference. And then you have like a day, and then you're going to get back on a plane again for what? That's crazy. Again, if you have to do it for any reason, then it is what it is. But like, you're not going to plan your vacation like that. So my point is like understanding the costs, the physical, mental costs, as well as the monetary expenditure, the investment in it, planning things out, knowing that it's going to take time to recover to get back to your baseline when you're operating clear and productive at whatever level that is for you, as opposed to just constantly winging it and not really fully understanding the true cost of your actions. So once I changed that whole framework, for example, like there was a time where, you know, I would go out Friday through Sunday, and then Monday was, or sorry, I should say, because we were closed on Monday. We had a retail space. So we closed on Monday. Sunday, Monday, we were closed. So you go out Saturday evening, and sometimes you finish Monday, or sometimes even the Sunday evening. But then even in your prime at like 22 or whatever, to get back at high functioning levels on Tuesday is not really realistic. And it also depends on what you're doing, clearly. You know, I had a pretty wild youth, and more decisions to make here. 2, 3, this feels right, going up the hill. So by the time you'd fully recover and you swore you're never doing any of that shit again, it's Friday and you're like, ooh, man, I feel pretty good. Maybe we should go out. And it's that same thing. And then you're kind of like struggling through the week. And then it takes you a week to recover. By the time you recover, you feel good, and maybe you take a couple of weeks off and whatever. But it's all very haphazard. And the end goal, right, your high level objectives always get compromised when you do that. Always. Because if you're really working towards your goals that are in alignment from, for example, where we stand today, basing everything on your core values and all your actions being in alignment with that, then there's really no space for you to be able to do anything in a haphazard way, because it doesn't really account for all of the ancillary costs that are associated with these experiences. Hola. Perdona.
No, adelante.
Oh man, did I make it back? Not bad. So, understanding that this time of year is carnival, planning for it, and I did a pretty good job in terms of creating a new project, banking content, so I didn't need to I could modify my production schedule. Missing only one. You know, does it matter that I missed one? Yes. But does it really? No. Obviously very different if you're a healthcare professional or someone doing something that requires 100% mental energy at this time and there's nothing that you can do about it. So the choice is obvious. Then you have to lean into your work, your purpose. It's not about taking a break at that moment. And maybe for you, in your current state, you don't have a choice. You don't have the freedom to say, hey, I'm going to enjoy carnival. But doing the responsible thing, having the discipline to ensure that your standard of operating never deviates because you're in alignment with your long-term goals, grounded in your core values. You're not compromising, you're not sacrificing, you're not giving anything up. Because what's more important? It's like a no-brainer. Is it like a weekend of partying at this time? Or does it get you closer to the thing that you want in a long-term position? Right? It's like finding someone who you love deeply and build a family with and grow old together. Like, to compromise that is insane, because you're giving up decades of life experience for a short-term thing. Now, obviously, you could read it in between the lines with that statement and say, well, you know, people have affairs and stuff all the time. And yeah, fine. But this is like, I guess, addressing more of a high-level thing and not so much of a nuanced thing, just as a concept. It's about being intentional with what you want, knowing and having done the work to understand what it is that you want. It's not such an easy question to answer if you haven't put in the work. One of the key things that we're doing with the growth blueprint, as well as the 10 steps to everyday action, is grounding yourself and understanding and doing the work that gets you closer to clarity and seeing into the future and saying, these are the things that I really want. This is what is required for me to get me closer to that point. So intention is really at the forefront of this entire conversation that we've had today. Not allowing little in like, you know, it's like there's a donut from this really delicious donut shop on the counter, but you're invited to your friend's house and your friend is a wizard with the barbecue and you're eating these like tomahawk steaks, you know, and you're hungry and you're working towards maybe becoming leaner, hitting your macros with protein, reducing total sugar, are you just gonna fucking eat that donut? I mean, some people may, but they're like, they have wobbly lines locking them in. You want big, bright, solid lines grounding you in your core values. Then it becomes like a non-starter. Like, obviously, that donut's just gonna sit there. That's also leveraging discipline and attaching the meaning behind it to something much bigger than the action itself, which goes back to core values. For me, that's after vitality. You know, you need vitality as the foundation in order to have the bandwidth to be able to do the work, to discover what your core values are, and then live by them. It's just such a fundamental truth to having the capacity of intention with everything you do. So we're back to where we started, and I will do this gorgeous panorama here. It's kind of cloudy. That's La Laguna behind me, the North Airport, water, see Atlantic Ocean, and that's Gran Canaria. That's another island over there. Fantastic. Another, well, I was gonna say beautiful day. It is over there. It's a fucking beautiful day. There are no non-beautiful days. And that's another thing, you know? It's like, it's all a matter of perspective. All right. What a trip, what a journey. Next week, I don't know where we'll be. Maybe I'm gonna change it up starting from today. There's so many incredible locations to hit and to capture. Maybe I'll even do a podcast from the south, which is where we're gonna be on Saturday next week. It's about an hour drive from here. All right, I love you guys. Hit the link in the description. Sign up now through the school community. When this episode drops, it'll still be available for free for life. It's in the pre-launch phase. Join, it doesn't cost you anything, and there's only upside. Love you guys. Drop a comment. Let me know what you want me to talk about next. If you have any questions, super happy to answer. Which actually leads me to my last and final point, is that I'm going to be scheduling weekly calls, lives, for the people that are involved in the school community. So if that is of interest to you, I encourage you to do it. Till next week. Peace.